Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Toyota Highlander, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver. But before we do that, let's check it out and make sure that this is something that's going to work for you. Right off the bat, I do want to address one of the big questions that we get asked in regards to these Highlanders and putting a trailer hitch on them, and that's if the hands-free liftgate assist is going to work. Unfortunately today, the model that we have here don't come equipped with that feature, so I can't actually show you. But from my past experience and reading what a lot of other folks are saying, they're not having any issues as far as getting it to operate like it should. Really, the only thing that you're going to have to do differently is kick your foot to either side of the hitch here, and once you find that sweet spot, everything will open up. When it comes to putting a hitch on the Highlander, it's one of them things where it just makes sense. You know, we see a ton of these here at eTrailer, and I see a lot of them out on the road, people using them to do a ton of different things. You know, these Toyotas are really capable vehicles, so whether you plan on pulling a trailer around, a camper, or a boat, whatever the case may be, or even just using accessories like a bike rack or cargo carrier, having a hitch back here is really going to open up your opportunities and what you can actually use your SUV for. One of the things I really like about this setup compared to some of the other hitches is the way it looks, the appearance of it. I think it's the best looking one available, at least in my opinion. And I say that because for the most part, it's going to be completely hidden. You know, really the only thing you're going to be able to see here is the safety chain plates and the receiver tube opening. So it does a good job of kind of looking like a factory option. And I think that's also in part to the finish of it. It has this matte black finish, and honestly, it almost matches our plastic bumper perfectly. So, you know, it kind of just flows and kind of blends in. With that said, one of the other benefits is the clearance it's going to give us. So I know a lot of people use folding type accessories, right? Bike racks and things like that. And this hitch gives us awesome clearance. It actually just comes out, I mean, just a hair past our back bumper here. And what that's going to allow you to do is take those folding accessories, put them in that upright position, and not have to worry about them hitting the back of your Toyota. Since this is a Class 3 hitch, it is going to have that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening. Really common size, ton of different accessories will work with it. At the end of it, we're going to have a reinforced collar for a little bit of extra support, and it is going to use that standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now, keep in mind, a pin and clip doesn't come included. If you need one though, not a huge deal. You can just grab it right here at eTrailer. The safety chain openings are going to be a little bit different. They're a plate style, and they actually sit flat. I kind of like it. The holes aren't huge, but they are going to provide us with enough space to use just about any size hook that we might have. The hitch is going to give us some pretty good weight capacities. As far as the maximum gross tongue weight rating goes, that's going to be 500 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch, so pretty high number. And you should be able to use just about any size bike rack or cargo carrier that you'd want to, for example. As far as the hitch's maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, that's going to be 5,000 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight that is pulling on the hitch. So weight of the trailer plus anything that you might have on it. I do always like to suggest it's never a bad idea just to grab your Toyota's owner's manual. That way you can make sure your Highlander can pull that much weight safely. And with that said, if you're going to be pulling a trailer, you want the lights to work. You know, that way people around you know what's going on, and you'll be safe and legal. And to accomplish that, you can always grab some trailer wiring. While we're talking about weight capacities, I do just want to throw this out there for those of you that plan on pulling some really heavy stuff, you know, things like a big camper or something like that, for example. There's another hitch available, the Kurt hitch. If a high weight capacity is going to be your main concern, like I said, you're pulling really heavy things, that one might be definitely worth looking into. It has really high weight capacities, and it also allows you to use what's called the weight distribution system, and that's going to be a separate component that'll help kind of keep your trailer and your Highlander nice and level whenever you're towing it down the road. So I know that won't apply to everyone, but like I said before, People use these Highlanders to do a lot of different things, so I figured it was worth at least mentioning. Let's go ahead and just grab a couple of measurements. That way we can try to figure out which hitch mounted accessories are going to work out best for you. If we go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be right at about 16.5 inches. So if you plan on pulling a trailer around, chances are pretty good you can use a ball mount that has a straight shank. If we go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 1.5 inches. And we kind of talked about this a minute ago, but you can use that measurement to figure out exactly if any of those folding accessories can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Toyota. I do just want to touch base on fitment, on different submodels and everything like that. So this hitch is going to work with all the different submodels, including hybrids like we have here today, so no issues there. The only thing that you may run into an issue with is if you have a full-size spare tire. So if the spare tire under there has a rim that is bigger than 18 inches, then you might run into some interference issues there. But with that said, I've yet to come across one of them. Chances are pretty good yours doesn't have that huge spare, but you know, it's definitely worth taking a quick peek underneath and checking that out. That way you make sure you get what you need actually. But other than that, you know, at the end of the day, hitch you really can't go wrong with. I mean, I think it looks awesome, and it's going to allow you to do those things that you've been wanting to do. So should definitely keep you covered there. Now, as far as the installation goes, really not too bad. A couple things you have to kind of loosen up and give you a little bit more space to work, but essentially the hitch is just going to kind of slide into place and bolt right up. So really shouldn't run into any snags or give you a whole lot of issues. But speaking of that, why don't we go ahead, pull into the garage and put it on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our Toyota. And first thing we need to do over here on the driver's side is remove this underbody panel. And so there's going to be a few different fasteners that we need to pull out. The first style will be like these, the push pin type. And to get these out, you can take a flathead screwdriver or even a trim panel tool if you got one. Pop the head of the fastener out, and that'll let you remove it completely. And so we'll just kind of work our way around here. Looks like we'll have one more there. Get that one out. And then we're gonna have some screws as well. So one there, it's a 10 millimeter. And it looks like we're gonna have two here as well. And what we can do, if we move up, kind of in this opening here by our spare tire, we're gonna have some more plastic nuts, and you can take a 12 millimeter, and a lot of times you can just do these by hand, and they're not actually gonna come off. A lot of times they'll stay with the panel, but if they're giving you any trouble, what you might have to do is kind of apply some downward pressure on it while you're unscrewing these. Get it free, and after we get this one, it should be the last one. If not a big deal, we'll find the other one. So felt like it came free. And we can go ahead and just work this out and set it to the side for now. Now, if you look on the bottom of our frame rail here, we're gonna have some plugs, and we need to pull those out. So you just take a screwdriver and get all these removed. And once we have them out, we're gonna do the same thing over on the other side. So on the driver's side here, there's a total of 5 of them. On the passenger side, there will only be 4. Now if we move over here to the passenger side, if we look, we're gonna have this little metal bracket, and we need to get that out of the way so the hitch will go up here without any issues. And there's 2 bolts. One of them will be a 10 millimeter. Remove that. And then we can switch over to a 17 millimeter socket and pull this one out. I can drop this bracket down and get it out of the way. So now we're gonna have a tab here under our bumper, and we're gonna have one on each side. So you're gonna do this over on the other side as well. But you're gonna pull out this fastener, pry that out, and then you're just gonna kind of bend this tab down a little bit, and that'll give us some extra space, making it easier to get our hitch up into place. Now let's just go ahead and go over our attachment points and our hardware that we're gonna use to secure the hitch. It's gonna be the same setup on each side, and you're gonna have a total of 3. So this weld nut, and this one. And even though they're covered, sometimes not a bad idea if you want to spray them down with some penetrating oil. Just use a brush like this and clean out the threads. That way if there's any junk in there, it won't interfere with our bolts. And the hardware combination that you're going to use is just going to be a bolt. You're going to put on a conical tooth washer. Make sure that the teeth on the washer are going to face up towards the hitch. And so when we're holding our hitch up here, you're just going to take these, and these are simply just going to thread into those factory weld nuts. Now with the next set of hands, you can take our hitch and get it into position. On that side there, you are going to have to kind of go up and over the exhaust and bend it, that little air deflector deal, out of the way as well. Then the hitch will kind of slide up into position. Once we have it lined up, I'm going to take the hardware. You want to get at least one started on each side, hand tight. That way the hitch will support itself while we work on the rest of them. So once we get the rest of our hardware started and hand tight, we'll come back with a 19 millimeter socket and snug everything down. Once everything's snug, you need to make sure and come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all of the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can always grab one here at eTrailer, or a lot of times go to your local auto parts stores and they'll have one available to rent. Now we can come back to these flaps, line those back up, and re-secure them. Now we can trim out our underbody panel. You can also just leave this off if you want. It's not going to hurt anything, but we're going to trim ours. There's a diagram in the instructions, kind of gives you an idea where to cut. And I also like to kind of just hold it up there roughly in place. Gives you a better idea. So I marked out the spots that we need to cut. I'm going to use a Dremel tool to do this. You could probably use a pretty heavy duty pair of snips or jigsaw, something along those lines, but go ahead and get all this cut out of here. With the panel trimmed out, now we can go ahead and get it reinstalled the opposite way that we had removed it. And that'll finish up our look at of the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver on our 2022 Toyota Highlander.